What I don't want people to do, and often is the case with a lot of Asian learners, is they see a native speaker struggling and they say, well, if a native speaker doesn't even know how to figure it out, what hope do I have? I always resonate whether I'm learning fitness or coding or other languages. Whenever I saw a tutor or instructor struggle, it made it more humanizing for me. Hey YouTube, John here. I saw this interesting thread on the English learning subreddit, credit to Cable Black. Apparently this has been posted a couple of times, but Cable Black came in with some extra details and he provided more information. These questions are part of a high school teacher recruitment test in Taiwan. And in most of the comments, you'll see that a lot of it's impractical for your daily conversation usage. What I thought we could do, I try not to go over it too much just so I could keep my reactions fresh. But what I thought is I'd take this test together and just really talk out loud through what I think the answer is, go through the correct answers. What I don't want people to do, and often is the case with a lot of Asian learners, is they see a native speaker struggling and they say, well, if a native speaker doesn't even know how to figure it out, what hope do I have? I always resonate whether I'm learning fitness or coding or other languages. Whenever I saw a tutor or instructor struggle, it made it more humanizing for me. Like, instead of deterring me, instead of making me feel demotivated, knowing that other people are struggling made it less isolating for me. So that's one of the key things that I want to provide by going through this test and showing my reactions and talking it through, because I don't think I'm going to get a perfect score. And again, you can argue me as a native speaker, are these things that I should know? Sure. And if you look at someone like me struggling through things like this and you say, well, how good is he going to be at helping me out when I'm test taking or I have to do a TOEFL or TOEIC? That distinction right there, I think, is super important, because I've often said that I am not the type of tutor, instructor, coach, teacher for standardized testing. But after we go through the simple checks, I would like to take a moment to kind of go through some of these vocabulary, kind of sift through what I think is actually useful, or for the words that are good for you to know, how can we repurpose them into things that are more applicable to you and how you would talk on a day-to-day basis. Again, I will link it down below in case you want to check it out for your own and go through the comments. The way the test is here, it's a lot all on one page. The pages after this one, it's like the reading and writing comprehension stuff, but we're just going to stick with the multiple choice vocabulary stuff. It is pretty packed. I don't like that there's not a lot of white space here, but again, I didn't want to cut it all up too much. I think one of the worst things to do is to over prepare the material and then come on air, record the video, and act like it's so easy. So that's why I wanted to kind of distance myself from the material a little bit. Maybe in editing, I'll chop it up just so it's a little bit easier to read. Question number 1. Helen despised nosy neighbors who tried to blank into her personal life, bombarding her with intrusive questions about her job or relationships. So our options are dupe, flop, condone, or pry. Dupe, flop, condone, or pry. Dupe is when you try to trick somebody. Flop is like fail. Condone, people get it reversed sometimes, but it's talking about supporting or not supporting something. So we don't condone these actions. We don't approve of these actions. You'll hear it in the news with politics. But pry is being invasive. So our clues here, you have nosy neighbors, her personal life, intrusive questions. We know, or I'm going to assume that the correct answer is pry.
That is correct.
Number 2. The investigative journalist was shocked when he received A or Ann blank, demanding that he reveal the confidential sources behind his recent expose on government corruption. So our choices are A, diatribe, B, subpoena, C, sobriety, or D, inferno. Diatribe, subpoena, sobriety, inferno. Diatribe, I feel like that's related to speech, something about the vernacular, something about the way something is being spoken.
You are so wrong. Diatribe, a forceful and bitter attack against someone or something.
Subpoena, I'm 99% sure that's the correct choice because a subpoena is a type of, I don't know what the actual difference between a subpoena and a warrant is. Warrant is, I guess, like the proof, the document that a judge gives in order for police to enter a building to investigate and look at things. But requiring someone to come and speak, usually in court, like I think subpoena is usually that type of document. And that comes from Hollywood English on my part. I've never been subpoenaed, but that's my familiarity with that word. Sobriety, I'm pretty sure is not the case. Sobriety is talking about alcohol or drug consumption. So when you are sober, that means you are not intoxicated. So in this case, if you overthink, you're talking about government corruption, talking about problems. Maybe it's related to drugs and alcohol, maybe. But from these details that we have right here, I'm pretty sure that's not the case. And then inferno, that's a type of fire. Is it possible that there's other metaphor or slang related to inferno? Could be, but I don't think that's the case. I'm 99% sure subpoena is the correct vocab here.
That is correct.
Speaking of alcohol, number 3. After a few too many glasses of wine, Jack became blank, tearfully recounting old stories about his high school sweetheart who had long since moved on. Poor Jack. Our vocab words here: A, maudlin, B, rapacious, C, incredulous, or D, negligent. Maudlin, rapacious, incredulous, negligent. So A and B, I don't think I've ever heard in my life. Not only have I not heard them, I'm pretty sure that I wasn't even exposed to these words when I was in school and I've forgotten them. You know, it's one thing to be like, oh yeah, I might have heard that before, but I don't remember the meaning or I never paid attention. I don't think I have ever seen these two words before. And could it be a choice of what materials I'm reading? It could be, but comics, novels, I don't know how a non-native speaker would encounter these type of words. So I'm going to put those as just low priority. I know we're not even at that part of the video to talk about the usefulness of the words, but I'm just going to outright say right now it's low priority. So between incredulous or negligent. So incredulous, so you know incredible is a positive adjective. Incredible is a good thing or just so amazing or just so big and exaggerated. That's part of the reason why they had that adjective associated with the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk. So incredulous, the distinction between incredulous and incredible, incredulous is almost like you have that last part of like ridiculous. It's like so big and ridiculous. Negligent is when you're being irresponsible. It can seem a little bit tricky right here. So he had too many glasses of wine. Did he become ridiculous or irresponsible? Both kind of fit. But he was tearfully recounting old stories about his high school sweetheart who had long since moved on. So I think we could argue that if you're drinking too much, you might be a little bit irresponsible. You might be getting out of hand. We don't even know why he's talking about his high school sweetheart. But some people, when they're drunk, they have their regrets. They just keep going on and on. I think that's for that reason. It's just so ridiculous that he's talking about this subject matter. He won't stop talking about it. And we know it's because he's drunk. I think incredulous is the right vocab word that we want to put right there.
You are so wrong.
So I'm guessing that if we look up maudlin, it's like the perfect vocabulary word that fits the situation.
Maudlin, self-pityingly or tearfully sentimental, often through drunkenness.
That's one of the super vocab words. Incredulous.
Incredulous, unwilling or unable to believe something.
Okay, so maybe our reaction to Jack in this state, we're incredulous that he let himself get so drunk. I guess that would make sense. And that's why Jack himself is not incredulous. Maybe Jack would be incredulous that we don't sympathize with him. Okay, that works. But just him going on and on about his high school sweetheart because he's drunk, that doesn't make him incredulous. Number 4. The artist was able to blank the bustling cityscape with such meticulous detail that every building, shadow, and reflection looked almost lifelike. So our options are A, pillage, B, expurgate, I'm pretty sure that's not going to be the right answer anyway. C, feint, and D, render. Okay, I'm 99% sure render is the correct choice, but let's go through this. So pillage is kind of like associated with destruction. So if he's an artist, I don't think he's going to be destroying anything. We know that there are experimental artists when you're doing stuff with sculptures or you're doing some kind of public exhibition. It might be kind of insane. You see artists repurpose like trash and scrap to make new things. That's true. But pillage, the scene that I think of when I think of pillage is like pirates attacking a city or Vikings attacking a city. They are pillaging the city and doing other terrible things, but not an artist. Expurgate, we're going to skip that one. Feint. Feint is like to fake out, to make something. I mean, if I think about feint, I think of usually fighting. If you play Pokemon, there's feint attack. But a boxer, if he's going to feint, he's going to make it seem like he's about to punch, but then attack you with another thing. So an artist can be deceptive. They might use kind of like illusions in their illustrations. But here, meticulous detail and like every building, shadow, and reflection looked almost lifelike. That's where we know the vocab word here is render. Render, when you render an image, a lot of people will know that from graphic design or dealing with computers. And it's the population. So not talking about population of a city, but like making it appear on your device or in the software. Like that's what we're talking about when we're rendering video, rendering image quality. People know this through their video games as well. The artist was able to render the bustling cityscape with such meticulous detail that every building, shadow, and reflection looked almost lifelike. Yeah, let's look up expurgate.
Expurgate. Remove matter thought to be objectionable or unsuitable from a text or account.
Number 5. Sabrina's blank remarks during the meeting left her coworkers stunned, as no one had expected such biting sarcasm from her. Sarcasm and biting sarcasm is our big clue right here, and her coworkers were stunned. So our choice is A, agile, B, profligate, C, caustic, D, versatile. Basically, her coworkers were shocked because she had been, I don't know if we want to say rude, but in a professional office setting, people just didn't expect her to talk in that way. So for that reason, we would probably take out agile and versatile because those are positive traits. Agile is like, well, I was about to say agile is flexible, but so is versatile. So agile, maybe like quick with things. Versatile being the one that's more flexible. Caustic, I believe, is going to be the correct vocabulary word here. And profligate, I have no idea what that means. So in this case, I'm going to simplify the meaning of caustic as harsh. Sabrina's C, caustic remarks during the meeting left her coworkers stunned, as no one had expected such biting sarcasm from her. I said that caustic was harsh. The dictionary says
caustic, able to destroy or burn something by chemical action.
And so in this case, we know that it's not a chemical reaction, but we could say that that's a metaphor. Here we go.
Very harsh and critical.
Being harshly critical. So harsh is the key word. And we also use harsh talking about harsh chemicals. So kind of dangerous, volatile. Number 6, the conference brought together a blank group of experts ranging from medical researchers to technology developers to discuss the future of artificial intelligence in healthcare. So our choices are disparate, B, exhaustive, C, unscathed, D, valiant. So we're going to skip A because I'm not sure of that meaning. B, exhaustive. So if you think of exhausted, normally you think that means you're tired. Oh, I'm so exhausted after work today. Or after running the 5K, she was really exhausted. But exhaustive in this case means like comprehensive. That means like a wide range. So did they bring a wide range of experts? That sounds like it makes sense. Like I think that would be my gut reaction so far.
You are so wrong.
C, unscathed. This is when we're talking about something is damaged. Usually things, I guess you could use it talking about people as well, but if there was an accident and something was unscathed in this case is undamaged. So for that reason, I don't think unscathed is going to fit this multiple choice set. D, valiant. Valiant, very similar to, you probably know the video game Valorant, having valor, noble, brave, that type of imagery with it. So between those good qualities and just being very comprehensive with a wide range, I think that's why B is probably going to be the best choice, exhaustive. A, disparate group of experts ranging from medical researchers to technology developers to discuss the future of artificial intelligence in healthcare. So it's not exhaustive. Interesting. I guess disparate is going to be one of those power vocabulary words.
Disparate, different from each other, diverse.
So I guess in this case, like, I still stand by my reasoning for exhaustive. It's going to be one of those things where you have two good answers, but you have one best answer.
Exhaustive, including all possibilities, very thorough.
Exhaustive doesn't just mean the range, it means the totality of the range. My reasoning for exhaustive should be applied to disparate. Number 7, Jessica tried not to let her younger brother's teasing blank her, but after hours of his relentless jokes, she finally snapped. Snapped in this case, hopefully it means just yelled back at him and not anything more extreme. So our choices here: A, deplete, B, vex, C, lurk, or D, plumb. Most commonly, I think of depleting a health bar, so I think of video games. It doesn't have to just be video games. Deplete means like use up or take away. So her brother's teasing, taking away from her, that sort of fits, but that's like forcing the vocabulary too much. B, vex, is like to irritate and annoy, and 99% sure like that's going to be the correct answer there. C, lurk. Lurk is like hiding in the shadows, kind of watching, like not really interacting, not actively doing something to them. If you overthink, Jessica was trying to ignore her brother, not let him bother her, so trying to keep him at a distance. With the sibling dynamic, like lurking is just not a vocabulary word that's associated there. Like lurking, where we know it now in 2025, you see it in live stream chats, or in the other extreme, like a monster lurking in the shadows. Two totally different environments. It's going to be very hard to imagine lurk used between brother and sister. And then D, plumb, I don't know what that one is, but I'm 99% sure that plumb is not associated with plumber.
Plumb, to examine in a careful and complete way in order to understand it.
Vex her, B, but after hours of his relentless jokes, she finally snapped. Irritate or annoy is like the top definition. Also, torment, trouble, distress, to disturb or stir up. Number 8. The blank of online misinformation makes it increasingly difficult for people to distinguish between factual news and fabricated stories. So A, connotation. B, puissance. Not sure. C, preponderance. And D, dexterity. Connotation is a pretty good word. I usually teach that word, the connotation, in relation with denotation. When we talk about a dog, for example. A denotation, you look it up in the dictionary, maybe it gives you the details of a mammal with 4 legs. It might say something like man's best friend. But connotation is like your personal association and connection with that word. So if you have a dog yourself, if you hear the word dog, you're not thinking scientifically a mammal with 4 legs, man's best friend. Like, if you love your dog, you're going to picture your dog. You're going to think of like some special memory when you hear the word dog. Or if you are traumatized by dogs, if you're afraid of dogs, you're probably going to think of when you got bit by a dog when you were a kid or something like that. Cujo, a horror movie, something like that, right? So is there a connection of online misinformation, maybe that I don't think that's going to be like the best choice here. Puissance, I don't know. This could be just a fact check where I just don't know what the best choice is. Preponderance, that's also not a familiar vocabulary word for me, but this is just like a wild guess. Preponderance, like if I think of the vocabulary word to prosper, to like be out there, to be a proponent, like, but proponent is Proponent. So that's probably not connected to this word, but I'm wanting to believe that that's the word right there. So we'll probably say C. Earlier, we had the words agile and versatile. Dexterity is kind of like one of those additional vocabulary words. If you talk about someone being ambidextrous, so normally people are right-handed or left-handed, they can use both hands. Dexterity, if you're playing games, like I think that's usually the skill when you're using a bow and arrow, so you're really talented at that. Since we're talking about online misinformation and fake news, essentially, I don't think dexterity has any place in this. So for now, we'll say C.
That is correct.
Preponderance, a greater amount or number of something.
Greater amount of something. So increasing in number. There's so much online disinformation. Yeah, that fits with preponderance. But what about that second word?
Puissance, great power, influence, or prowess.
You know, if you overthink, it can be dangerous how much power disinformation has out there. But our clues in this text increasingly difficult because there's so much of it. Yeah, preponderance does make the most sense. Number 9, John disliked overly blank people, preferring friends and colleagues who were honest with him rather than those who showered him with excessive, insincere praise. So we have A, impervious, B, grievous, C, obsequious, and D, prodigious. All of these IOUS words, automatically that's formal. Automatically I know that I would never use these words in daily, everyday conversation. Impervious, I feel like that's such a comic book word, or I guess maybe video games also. So if you have someone who's almost invincible, they can't be hurt. They're impervious to damage. Superman, Iron Man's armor, Thor, all those superheroes basically. John disliked people who couldn't be hurt. No, that doesn't really make any sense, right? Grievous, to grieve, like when you're sad, like you're so sad, you're mourning, like the death of a family member or any kind of death, that's to grieve. But grievous is like severe, like so serious, so problematic in that kind of like other direction. So John disliked overly serious people. That type of serious, we're not talking about someone who doesn't have a sense of humor. Your gut reaction might be like, oh yeah, I don't like people who are too serious, who don't know how to take a joke. Like that's not what we're talking about here. So I don't think this fits on this topic of this conversation talking about other people. Obsequious. So some related words that might not be related to this, but this makes me think of obsolete or opaque and transparent. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Well, I don't think I'm going to get this one correct, and that's okay. Prodigious? Not sure. Let's just say C for now. John disliked overly obsequious people, preferring friends and colleagues who were honest with him rather than those who showered him with excessive, insincere praise.
Obsequious, obedient, or attentive to an excessive or servile degree.
I guess the easy vocab here is like a yes man. So people always just agreeing with him. And our clue here, John prefers people who are honest with him instead of just giving excessive, insincere praise. So that's almost like the definition of obsequious there. Let's look at prodigious.
Prodigious, remarkably or impressively great in extent, size, or degree.
If we look at it that way, so we look at prodigious as a positive thing, maybe we have the related word prodigy, a child prodigy, like a child genius, because they are just so amazing with their intellect for that age. That makes sense. That's probably our clue. While having a blank of information at our fingertips is a great advantage, it can also be overwhelming when we try to sift through conflicting sources. So a plethora of information, ardor of information, defiance of information, or reticence of information. Plethora means a lot. We have so much information at our fingertips. It's a great advantage, but it can also be overwhelming. That makes a lot of sense. I'm 99% sure that's the correct answer. Ardor, I have no idea. Defiance, if you have information to prove someone was lying, like in the face of it, like this is proof to defy what they're saying, that sort of works, but I don't think that's what's happening in this context right here. And reticence, I feel like I've had to teach this word before, but outside of having to learn in order to teach that word, I can't remember what that means. While having a plethora of information at our fingertips is a great advantage, it can also be overwhelming when we try to sift through conflicting stories. So plethora means a lot. Let's see, what does ardor mean? Ardor means great enthusiasm or love. And reticence, the quality of being reticent. That doesn't help. To be silent, to not speak freely. Your communicative ability, that's not really tying into the topic of this sentence, so that has no place there. What's the way that we can have conversation points about each of these sentences? Okay, so Helen has noisy neighbors. They're always prying into her personal life. More than this aspect, we would probably talk about adjectives to describe those neighbors. So yeah, they're nosy. Yeah, they're really annoying. I hate my neighbors, maybe, is what you would talk about. They don't know how to mind their own business. Like, I think that's the slant we would have if we're talking with a friend and we're complaining, we're venting about our neighbor situation. Number two, I guess, like, if we're reading news about it, the subpoena is never going to be the focal point of the story. They were called in to testify. They have to speak about these things. What is the outcome? Like, okay, after he was subpoenaed, and again, subpoena is a weird looking word. It's kind of a strange word for you to say if you've never said it before. It's not actually that difficult. It's just unusual to see it. But what was the result? Like, what happened to it? Is he going to have to come testify again? Did he refuse to show up to court? Maybe he fled the country. Those are the conversational points rather than just the act of being subpoenaed by itself. I learned a new word, maudlin, and it's like very connected to being drunk and being overly sentimental. Okay, so we have a perfect vocabulary word to describe Jack. Do we need that word? No. Like, if you're in that situation, what are you actually going to do? Are you going to keep listening to Jack, or are you going to try to get away from Jack? And when you're telling people about Jack, I think the conversational points are, can you imagine, like, can you believe he drank that much? Like, he just wouldn't shut up. Like, I don't even know why he talked about his high school sweetheart so much. They didn't even date that long. Or maybe they didn't even date at all. Or she's married now with like 3 kids. Like, those are the directions that you would go with the conversation. Like, not just, oh, this one perfect vocabulary word to talk about how Jack was in that particular moment. Maybe good for writing, but for speaking, we just don't use those vocabulary words in that way. Maybe we are trying to give a lot of credit to this artist. We're trying to say that, whoa, his skill to render all these things is amazing. Maybe we even compare it to a computer. I mean, what he can do with his hands, he's like a machine. Like, that would be a way to say it more conversationally. But also pointing out the things that he's able to render, that's a better direction to go when you're speaking about it, rather than just saying that, wow, he's so good at rendering these images. It's another situation where the vocabulary is almost like too perfect to describe what's going on. Okay, Sabrina had caustic remarks. Oh, she was very harshly critical during the meeting. But in a conversation, can you believe what Sabrina said during the meeting? And then you would quote what she said. And then where would the direction go after that? Like, maybe you would agree. Maybe you would say something like, I'm glad Sabrina called out our boss. Or I'm glad she said that about Tom, because Tom sucks. Or you would take the conversation to the direction of, like, what's going to happen to Sabrina after this? Like, maybe nothing happens, because even though Sabrina was blowing up, she's the CEO's daughter, and like, she's untouchable in that way. Or the very next day Sabrina was fired, and oh man, like even though she blew up, like I wish she was still here because she was my favorite coworker. Like those are all the directions that we would go rather than just saying, oh, those were such caustic remarks. Like that's not how we would have the conversation around that. There's a conference, there's a lot of people with different types of qualifications. I think we would speak to that. Where's this person from? What did he study? What do we know about this person? Wow, like I was so impressed by this individual. This guy, he rubs me the wrong way, or he seems overconfident, or this guy is really meek. He's really quiet, even though he has the most credentials. Like that's how we would go combing through the individuals. Like this disparate word really seems literary, just not something that we would use. Vex, it's one of those perfect type of vocabulary words, but I feel like it's perfect in an old English sense. The time period for vexing, I think of like Sherlock Holmes, to be vexed, to be irritated. And again, that fits. But if you're in the situation, you're going to side with Jessica or you're going to side with her younger brother. So it's either like, wow, yeah, I can't believe your younger brother is so annoying, or I totally get it because I have a younger brother too. Or you would say, hey, Jessica, don't let it bother you, or it's not that big of a deal. Like those are the directions that you would go rather than, oh, Jessica, I can't believe you're so vexed. Like that's just not how we would talk about it. We should say that expanding your vocabulary, finding words that you love the sound of, that you want to try, that you want to use, you're more than welcome. It doesn't matter how formal or informal they are. But just thinking that you have to be using the most formal, big vocabulary word that you know, that it's not a necessity. So here, I think the very simple fix that gives you the opportunity to speak more fluently with short words, but because you can stress the tone, we could just say, instead of there's a preponderance of online misinformation, you could say there's so much misinformation out there. There's just so much. Simple words. So much. So much. Like that 2-letter word is super easy to say, but you can really stress with your voice and you sound a lot better than trying to use a big word that you might not be comfortable saying. Like even me trying to stress that word because it's too big, like, oh, the preponderance of online misinformation. Like I don't think anybody would take me seriously if I used it and tried to be emotional with that. John disliked overly obsequious people. John hates yes men. John hates butt kissers, ass kissers, people who kiss ass. There we go. Brown nosers, all these words, suck ups. Nobody will give him the truth. No one knows how to tell him like it is. There we go. Here we can go 2 directions. We can do it just like how we handled preponderance before and use so much to exaggerate. Oh, hey, we just have so much information at our fingertips. That sounds fluent, smooth. But a plethora of information, a plethora of something, I don't know why, but that isn't uncommon to hear. It's not that rare. And maybe it's because plethora is easier to say, than vocabulary words like preponderance. There could be a moment of Hollywood English infusing it to better popularity in the mainstream. That's a possibility also. But I don't think plethora of information is as unusual to hear. It won't be as weird, but don't force yourself to use this one. Okay, I'm tired. Let me know what you think. Like, I have been steering the channel to doing more scripted content, but is it better for me to just kind of react, like to have my face on camera, to talk through the element of being human, talking through like a real person? That's what I always want to give when I talk about conversation coaching or speaking English or just speaking in a conversational setting in general. So hopefully that's what you get out of this video. Questions, comments, agree, disagree, let me know. Maybe there's like another multiple choice English thing that we should go through. Let me know. And that's it for this video, the end.